Attention all wrestling fans, get ready for the ultimate fan experience at the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup in Los Angeles, California from March 30th through April 2nd. This event will bring together the biggest event in wrestling and your favorite podcast, as well as diehard fans from all over the world. This is the perfect opportunity for fans to connect and celebrate their love of the sport as well as their love of us. So mark your calendars, grab your tickets, and get ready to suck it and join us live. Don't miss out on the ultimate fan experience of the WCBS WrestleMania Fan Meetup weekend in LA. And if you're not a wrestling fan, there will be other YouTube creator events, including a trip to the brand new Super Nintendo World at Universal Studios. So listen to World Class Bullshitters Live for more updates, and for more information, email worldclassbs@mail.com. Thebestmail.com, jabroni.
The following is a World Class Bullshitters exclusive.
They say you can smell a stinker a mile away, and well, with Ant-Man, we've been smelling this stinker since last year. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is the 31st film in the MCU. Yeah, this little series that started back in 2008 with Iron Man has 31 films under its belt, and it looks like we're finally getting to the point where each one is getting worse than the one that came before it. Phase 4 was a tough time for the MCU. You had a lot of fan division, you had a lot of fan complaints, you had a lot of fans not liking what was being put out. Shows like She-Hulk, Ms. Marvel, movies like Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and the Eternals all failed to light up the box office, all failed to excite fans, and all failed to make Disney what they wanted: money. So now here we are with Phase 5 with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and well, I don't know about the money just yet, but it looks like Disney hasn't learned anything, including bad CGI, bad story, and just a pointless bad film. But let's talk about that. I don't want to give it all away in the opening now, do I? You know, they say that all Marvel films aren't created equal, and when you look at a film like Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania, and you compare it to a film like Avengers: Infinity War, you see that is just true. You see, normally, when you have a Marvel movie, you got a 50-50 chance at best of it being good or bad. But if you sit through Phase 4, you know it's like a 66 2/3% chance of sucking, and sadly, Ant-Man and the Wasp hasn't fixed that problem. Uh-oh is a good word to describe it. It's the word they're using to describe it over at Forbes. Uh-oh. That was my first thought when I saw the review scores rolling in for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the third Ant-Man movie. But a seemingly important one to set up MCU's Phase 4 villain, Kang. As it stands with 140 reviews in, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania has 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's a dismal score for an MCU feature, and it marks only the second time that an MCU movie has a rotten, below 60% score on the site. The first time being The Eternals in 2021, so it does seem like something has gone very wrong here. As it stands, here are the bottom 10 MCU movies, with Quantumania now being the second worst ever reviewed. Captain America: The First Avenger at 80, Thor at 77, Avengers: Age of Ultron at 76%, Iron Man 2 at 71%, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, 74%. The Incredible Hulk, 67%. Thor: The Dark World, 66%. Thor: Love and Thunder, 64%. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, 53%. The Eternals, 47%. Notably, Quantumania is also significantly lower than the past two Ant-Man movies, where the first one had an 83% and the second had an 87%. They were never really considered top-tier Marvel movies, but this is a huge drop. What's wrong with the movie? Well, quite a lot, it seems, but a whole lot of critics seem to focus on the visuals. Mashable says, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania is a chaotic, woefully unfunny mess that has forgotten why its hero was such fun. The thrill isn't just gone, it's been buried beneath a swarm of plot contrivances and truly hideous CGI. Why Now states, visually the film is messy and flat. The CGI is shockingly poor, and the action looks muddled. At least Quantumania has one of the best casts in Marvel. The Atlantic says, the story is in service to a larger Marvel engine, an increasingly creaky machine that nevertheless keeps grinding away, dropping superstar performers into CGI glop because the show simply must go on. Taking place almost entirely in the Quantum Zone, the film is in turn almost completely CGI, and even in the trailers it looked like it could be a problem. We now know there's currently a visual effects shortage in Hollywood, in part because of the demands of places like Marvel, and perhaps this was too much work given not enough time, as the end result is just not very good. This is contrast to The Eternals, the other bad Marvel film, where the visuals were rather fantastic. The story was the main issue there. Of course, many MCU fans may wait and see what audience scores are like. Generally speaking, audiences score trend higher than critics for most superhero offerings, and I would probably expect that to be the case here. But I wouldn't be surprised if this was a huge disparity, as this always seems like a pretty risky film. I also think it'd be worth noting that many new Marvel films keep popping up on the bottom 10 here, like the even higher profile Thor, Love and Thunder, and the Multiverse of Madness. The MCU does feel like it's lost a bit of magic in Phase 4. It really does. If you look at the list of the worst reviewed MCU films, a lot of these films are newer. And that just strengthens what the audience has been saying this entire time. The MCU just has lost a bit of its magic. For years, it was superhero fatigue, superhero fatigue, superhero fatigue, but it turns out it was just a lot of bad films that got people turned off. I'm concerned because I've seen every Marvel film in theaters, and I've been saying for a while that they're just not as good as they used to be. I never thought I'd live to see the day where the Joker was right, like he said to Batman at the end of the film. They don't make them like they used to, eh, Batsy? Well, Joker, you're right. They don't make Marvel films like they used to. And like they used to was just a few short years ago. Folks, for those in the future, this video was produced in 2023. Back in the year 2019, Marvel films were a visual feast for the eyes. Back when they were making films like Infinity War and Endgame, you would go to a Marvel movie and be blown away. You couldn't imagine what you were seeing on screen. You would watch a film like Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and be blown away by the spectacle, the visual effects, the gold people, the planets, the aliens. It all looked great. It all looked cool. It brought the world of the comic book to life. Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania is being compared to films like Shark Boy and Lava Girl, but the effects just aren't as good. What is the excuse? This movie has a big budget. It's not like this movie was made for $50 and a promise. No, this movie was made for over $200 million. Now, what I find telling about reviews like this are when shill sites tend to give honest reviews. And you're asking yourself, Jeff, what's a shill site? A shill site is one of those websites that seems bought and paid for. It's like, they promote Disney movies, so of course they're going to give a Disney movie a 10 out of 10 because they don't want to lose access to the actors or insight or honestly, the ability to make content that other places can't. Places like Collider do this all the time. And now today, over on Fandom Wire, they're calling Ant-Man and the Wasp a quantum mess. Fandom Wire says Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania takes an interesting approach to telling its story, although there isn't really much of a story to tell. There is no setup, no time dedicated to establishing a baseline or spending more than a moment with these characters in their real lives before thrusting them into the computer-generated world of the quantum realm. This is where we spend nearly all of our time. It's not a visually pleasant experience, feeling more reminiscent of a Shark Boy, Lava Girl, or Spy Kids than the MCU. It's a questionable choice by Marvel to dedicate an entire film to a world of CGI, as fans are vocally calling for a return to form with more character and plot-driven stories like Captain America the Winter Soldier. Marvel's overuse of CGI has been a critique for years. However, its use of poorly executed CGI has really made fans stand up and take notice recently, with the floating head from Thor Love and Thunder and the third eye from Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness post-credit sequence being the worst offenders. I'm here to tell you now a specific character in Quantumania will make all of those moments look like digital mastery by comparison. That's all I'll say is not to spoil anything, but you'll know it when you see it, I guarantee it. Is that going to be MODOK? I can't wait. Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania certainly can't be accused of being the same old Marvel movie. It truly is incredibly different from any other entry in the shared universe. While I would love to mean that as a compliment, different isn't always better, and Quantumania takes a skosh over 2 hours to prove that. It's a bit of a jumbled quantum mess that feels part Star Wars and part Rick and Morty, but always as a much weaker version. Homage can be a beautiful thing when utilized properly, and it can be a travesty when an homage becomes the film's entire identity and has nothing new to say. And that was a mostly nice negative review. Marvel doesn't really care about if we like the film or not. They don't care if the critics like it. They don't care if the fans like it. They care if it sells. They care if it makes money. And it looks like Ant-Man and the Wasp, no matter how shitty it is, well, they're projecting it to make a lot of money. Box office analysts are predicting a $120 million domestic tally over the 4-day President's Day holiday weekend, according to Deadline. Disney's own projections are a bit softer, with the studio hoping for $95 million over the 3-day weekend and between $105 and $110 for the 4-day holiday frame. The film is expected to open in roughly 4,300 theaters, and even if it meets Disney's more modest projections, it will still surpass the previous Ant-Man films. So do Marvel films matter if they're good or not? If they make money, that's what matters. And clearly, Marvel has been chasing the almighty dollar for a while and, well, kind of been succeeding. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness made nearly $1 billion, but no other Marvel film has been reaching that high, except for Spider-Man. But that's not really a Marvel film, though. That's a Sony film, and, well, let's be honest with ourselves. The MCU is full of wonderful characters that have a lot of fans, that people will line up in droves to go see their movie. But they're not Spider-Man. Let's stop deluding ourselves here. Don't be like Mikey from the Goonies and think you're going to talk your way into thinking Ant-Man's going to make more than Spider-Man. Look, just because it's Bugman doesn't mean it's the same story. And I like Ant-Man too. I thought the first one was a great film and the second one was fine, But the third one I was excited for because I like Paul Rudd and I like what came before it enough to sign up for this. So folks, we're going to do what we always do here on this channel. We're going to check it out so you don't have to. We'll have a review tomorrow night during the show, which will go live an hour later than usual. But don't worry, we'll have a full Ant-Man review, and you can ask all of your questions. We'll talk about the terrible CGI and a whole lot more. So folks, remember, WCBS will rip the Band-Aid off for you so you don't have to feel the pain. We'll suffer. But don't worry, we'll make it. We're tough guys, and we're here to entertain you. So folks, join us tomorrow night for that Ant-Man and Wasp Quantumania review to hear what my thoughts are then after having seen the film. And the fact that this film doesn't feature Luis, well, my interest has reached an all-time low. But folks, come back tomorrow for the review, and until then, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.